Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid. And then there's abortion, a difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on, but they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue.
It's been nearly a year since Bill Maher launched his full-scale critique of the woke movement, and he shows no signs of letting up. His latest target? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's been traveling across the country promoting her progressive agenda. But Maher remains skeptical, voicing his usual sharp commentary. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button as we dive into the details.
Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales. Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid.
It all started when Bill Maher did what he does best, asking the tough, often uncomfortable questions. This time, his focus was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her relentless push for a far-left agenda. Maher pointed out that more and more Americans are turning away from such extreme views. He openly questioned why anyone would continue promoting a political ideology that many see as toxic, polarizing, and out of touch. A reasonable person might pause, reconsider, maybe even pivot, but not AOC. She's firmly convinced she holds a moral high ground and has no issue pushing her latest vision for America regardless of public reception. And Maher isn't done. What comes next isn't just standard critique. It's a sharp, methodical takedown that leaves no room for spin or social media damage control. It's classic Maher, unfiltered, unapologetic, and unrelenting. Trust me, you'll want to see this unfold, because this is where things get savage.
And then there's abortion, a difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on, but they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue. And abortion rights are women's rights. Well, that's wrong now. Or as the kids say, hold up. When the wokey end of the progressive spectrum talks about abortion now, they shy away from that word, women, and prefer terms like birthing people.
And that, right there, is the hill Democrats chose to die on, the refusal to clearly define what a woman is. Just a decade ago, this wasn't even a debate. Everyone agreed a woman menstruates, can become pregnant, and give birth. That was biology, not ideology. Then came the progressive shift. Suddenly, men could be women. Gender was fluid, and questioning this made you a bigot. But Americans pushed back. They asked simple, sincere questions and were met with scolding lectures, cancellations, and condescension from elite academic towers and coastal echo chambers. While the left doubled down on this new dogma, much of the country quietly walked away. The outcome? One of the most crushing electoral defeats Democrats have suffered in recent years. Not because voters were hateful, but because they were tired of being told that basic truths were offensive. Democrats didn't just lose votes. They lost trust, clarity, and credibility.
And more of them now than ever are identifying as Republican. So are Asian Americans, whose support for Democrats is down 16 points since the last election. A lot of that is because, in the name of achieving equity in schools, Democrats in deep blue cities have made it a mission to eliminate the advanced programs at which Asian kids excel.
And that right there is what happens when you keep pushing people into a corner. Sooner or later, they push back, and not in the way you'd expect. AOC and her party strutted through the deep blue states like they had a political blank check, untouchable, unquestionable, unstoppable. They believed they could push through any radical policy, certain their base would march with them no matter how extreme. But they were wrong. What they never anticipated was a silent revolt. Voters who once supported them turned on a dime, quickly and without warning. And where did they go? Straight to the GOP. That's right, the very group AOC spent years vilifying. This wasn't a slow drift. It was a political earthquake. Overnight, former supporters became critics, and those Democratic strongholds, they're now showing serious cracks. The big question is Is this just a temporary setback for AOC, or the beginning of a full-blown collapse of everything she's built? Stick around, because Maher's next move might just seal the deal.
Last week, an 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team. And the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why." Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stopped seeing your candidate as their lawyer.
If you've been wondering why Maher keeps dropping lines like "my lawyer" and "their lawyer," don't overthink it. It's not about courtroom drama. It's political theater at its sharpest. What Maher is really highlighting is painfully simple. Voters want their elected officials to act as their advocates, their defenders, their lawyers, not someone arguing for the other side. Here's where the hammer comes down. AOC and her progressive allies seem to have missed that memo. Instead of standing with the people, they've been talking down to them, lecturing, grandstanding, and pushing policies that make voters ask, whose side are you even on? Maher's not just calling this out. He's laying out the case, jab by jab. He's exposing the growing gap between what voters expect and what these so-called representatives actually deliver. The irony? AOC may sound like she's championing the underdog, but in the courtroom of public opinion, she's starting to look like the one in the hot seat. And trust me, when Maher delivers his closing argument, it won't be gentle. Stick around, because the verdict is coming, and it could shake the whole foundation.
If you're a parent and wanted schools to reopen a lot sooner than they did after COVID shutdowns, or think maybe your kid is getting a bad education, partly because it's nearly impossible to fire a lousy teacher, yeah, you're going to say, congratulations, teachers, you got yourself a good lawyer. The Democratic Party's always got your back, 100%. But I've noticed my kid is kind of an idiot. So I may be looking for new representation.
It wasn't just Latino voters that AOC and her progressive allies managed to alienate. They struck a nerve with something even more foundational, the American education system. And the fallout? Let's just say this report card has failure written all over it. A few years ago, with the Biden administration at the helm and the far left cheering from the sidelines, policies were enacted that made it significantly harder to remove underperforming teachers. Sounds noble in theory, right? In practice, it handcuffed school administrators across the country. The result? A staggering decline in student performance. According to Nation's report card, average math scores for 13-year-olds dropped 9 points between 2020 and 2023, the steepest decline in 50 years. Reading scores fell by 4 points. And the educators at the center of it, protected like museum artifacts, immune to accountability. While AOC fires up crowds with progressive slogans and Bernie Sanders recycles his classic class warfare rhetoric, parents are left staring at their kids' grades, wondering where it all went wrong. This isn't just a bad policy outcome. It's a generational crisis, which raises a million-dollar question. With a track record like this, can the Sanders AOC wing realistically help the DNC recover? Or are they marching the party straight into academic and electoral detention? Stick around, because Maher's next takedown might be the final exam. And spoiler alert, they're nowhere near passing.
President Biden wants to cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in student debt. Okay, but the poorer 2/3 of American kids who don't get a college degree are going to say, why should the people who didn't go to college and make less money subsidize the people who did go and make more? You want me to chip in so some liberal arts college can build a bigger rock wall? You're not my lawyer.
Sometimes, when I really sit back and think about some policies that Democrats have tried and spectacularly failed to push through, I can't help but laugh out loud. And I'm not talking about minor bureaucratic blunders. I mean full-blown, headline-grabbing policy disasters. The kind that would be hilarious if they weren't so painfully real. Take the infamous defund the police movement. That sounded great, until crime skyrocketed in major cities, and even the loudest supporters started quietly backpedaling. Or the push to cancel rent, which may have sounded brilliant in a college dorm room, but quickly collapsed under the weight of basic economic reality. And let's not forget the effort to scrap standardized testing, because apparently, expecting students to meet minimum academic standards is now oppressive. As Maher put it, it's like the Democrats are playing a game called How to Lose a Middle in 10 Easy Steps, and they're winning by losing. The kicker? These same folks still believe they deserve another shot at steering the country. This isn't just bad policy. It's political theater at its most absurd. And Maher? He's not letting them exit stage left without one last brutal call-out.
When he ran in 2020, Bernie Sanders said he would legalize marijuana on his first day as president, but that the business of selling pot would be awarded first to those who suffered most from the drug war. And you know what? I can't argue with that instinct. The drug war has been a horrendous instrument of prejudice and punishment for racial minorities, so it seems fair that they jumped the line for weed franchises the way Indians did for casinos. But it's also what's holding up Republican support for legalizing weed nationally, which would be good for everybody. And these are the hard, practical choices the Democrats have to weigh.
Bill Maher delivers a razor-sharp point here, and it's one that truly deserves attention. If Democrats seriously want to claw their way back into power, they've got to do more than toss around catchy slogans or preach from moral high horses. They need to confront their past failures directly. And here's the wild part. Actually talk to the people they've ignored for years. Not talk at them. Not guess their struggles from a climate-controlled D.C. office. But sit down face-to-face and listen. No jargon. No judgment. Because relying on polls and think tank theories to figure out what voters want, that's exactly how they lost them in the first place. Maher isn't saying they need to sell out their values. He's saying they need to reconnect and rebuild trust. Otherwise, they're just shouting into an empty echo chamber while the voters they desperately need have already left the building. The clock's ticking. The only question left is whether they'll wake up in time or let the window close for good.
As with all these issues, the wavering voter is saying to her lawyer, the Democratic Party, hey, so happy for you that you have so many other clients and that you care so much about their problems and all the pro bono work you do. But you're supposed to be my lawyer. The Democrats need to be like the lawyers you see on billboards. You hurt, we fight.
Bill Maher didn't just roast the Democrats. He held up a mirror. From tuning out voters to twisting basic truths, the party has strayed so far off course they hardly resemble the people they claim to represent. Maher's jokes may earn laughs, but they cut deep, exposing failures in policy, messaging, and plain old common sense. If Democrats have any hope of making a comeback, it won't come from doubling down on denial. It'll require real listening, honest course correction, and a much-needed reality check. Because if they don't pivot soon, voters won't just quietly walk away. They'll slam the door behind them. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.